Welcome in to It's Always Sunny in Cheese Kingdom. I'm Austin, feeling much better than the last time you heard me on the show. You can find me on Twitter at RealBirdLawyer. Here with me, as always, my co-host Taylor at Taylor_Witt on Twitter. What is going on, my friend?
I haven't heard that melodious voice on the other end of my podcast ears in several weeks. Good to have you back at full strength.
It is good to be back at full strength. I actually think I recovered from the COVID, and I think I actually maybe have a little bit of a cold now. I've got this weird cough. I don't know what it is, but my voice looks and feels and sounds much better. And that is the important thing, important for our listeners. I will tell you guys candidly, confidentially, last week was a struggle. We gutted through it, just like our Kansas City Chiefs are gutting through pretty much every single game that they play, but it's going to be great. We have a great show for you guys today. But first, I want to give you guys an update on our listener leagues. Yes, we have not forgotten. We did an update on this after like week 2, and now somehow it's week 7,
6, 7,
which
yeah.
seems impossible. But we need to update everybody on what's going on in the listener leagues because, oh my God, there's so much crazy, weird, wild action going on. For those of you who are unfamiliar, we have 3 listener leagues. We have our Dynasty League. We have our Redraft League, which is a feeder league for our Dynasty League. You know, champion moves up. Lowest team in the Dynasty League moves down. They get relegated. And then we have our Cutthroat League where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated every week, 16 teams. Let's just recap this action really quick because we got some wild stuff going on. In the Dynasty League, our inaugural champion, In Like Flint, is pulling a Chiefs, and he is starting off his title defense undefeated. He's 6-0. Chiefs are 5-0. While also, unlike the Chiefs, leading the league in scoring. I mean, just an absolute dynamite offense from In Like Flint. Great job by him. Unfortunately, our friend Caveman Jesus is the early favorite for relegation at 1-5. He's still got plenty of time to turn his season around, but he's sort of like the Raiders, you know, the Dynasty League. I don't want to put that on him.
Don't. I mean, call them the Panthers or something. Don't call them the Raiders, but
I feel like, I don't know. Those are both insulting for different reasons. In our redraft league, we have 4 teams tied at 4-2, which is kind of crazy. We have WB Jewel, Maverick 15, Chief 270, and Sloan. Sloan was dead last year, so it's great to see her turning things around, 4-2, and in 4th place in the league. It is anybody's game. It is anybody's chance to get into the playoffs, win the Super Bowl, earn that promotion up to the Dynasty League. And I also have to shout out our last place manager, Mahan B. He may be in last place, but he does have an incredible team name, Truth or Consequences. Are you familiar with the origin of this name, Truth or Consequences?
Oh, no, not at all.
Oh my God. Truth or Consequences is, I think it's in New Mexico, I want to say. That's the name of a town. It's called Truth or Consequences.
No.
Yes, it is the name of an actual city.
There's so many crazy city names out there, but that's a crazy one.
Yes, Truth or Consequences. So that is obviously a play on Truth or Consequences. Truth or Consequences. Great team name by our guy Mahan B. In last place in the standings, but number 1 in our hearts. And in the Cutthroat League.
The off-ramp on the highway for this place is just like Truth or Consequences this way. Like if you're driving down the road and you see that, that's like a horror movie or something. Like
I think I'm good. I'm just gonna keep driving.
I don't want to pick either one. I want to just move on through it. So yeah, that's really cool.
Truth or Consequences is actually sort of like a cleaned up version of Fuck Around or Find Out, right? Like that's you know, it's sort of like the OG version of that. Fuck Around or Find Out would be if I ever was in charge of naming a town. I think Fafo would be a pretty funny. That would be a pretty funny name for a town. You don't want to see that on the off ramp either. Fuck Around or Find Out. In the Cutthroat League, so we last updated you guys on the Cutthroat League after week 2, which was only our first cut. It's a 16-team league. There's 17 weeks. We give the first 2 weeks of the season 1 cut just to make sure that somebody doesn't get completely screwed over by one
first
bad week.
You can't join a league and then 1 weekend.
I mean,
like that would
it would be tough. But it's been a cut every week since then. We had Slinky Casey lose by 0.48 in week 3, which is just an absolutely brutal way to go out. We had Ihei Scoff going down in week 4. We lost NY Nicole in week 5 to a case of too many Browns and Broncos in our lineup. I mean, just too many. Like
classic
Browns,
case.
Multiple Broncos, not a good situation for her.
Seen it once, seen it 1,000 times.
She was eliminated last year because Aaron Rodgers got hurt and got her 0 points in the week 1, and she couldn't recover from that. So she did make it further this year. Proud of her. And last week, In Like Flint scored a not nice 69 points to get the stanky boot. He is 6-0 in the Dynasty League, but he is
Yeah.
eliminated from the Cutthroat League. See ya.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. The Cutthroat League's insane. Like the other two are
It is
great.
insane.
I really like, but like I'm used to those formats. I'm used to a redraft
Sure.
format. I'm
Right.
used to Dynasty.
Yeah.
I'm not used to relegation and promotion. That's something that we were really
Sure.
interested in, and it's worked out. It's been a good system so far for us. But the Cutthroat League, even though we're used to the idea of a Cutthroat League, we've always played with eight with our friends,
It's
or
just
just like a
that's
and
way
and
too
that's like a
safe.
cut every 2 or 3 weeks, and it's
Yeah.
like it's
And
fun and
there's
fine, but
everybody has good players, it's
yes,
just like
yeah,
who's good players don't play that well,
this one's
you know.
crazy, man. This one's crazy. And we redistribute all the dead people's fab, the free agency bucks to all the living people after every couple weeks. We add
It's so funny. We
roster
add roster
spots every
spots.
couple weeks. Like
Ugh.
it's wild, but
I mean, it's our
I was
masterpiece, if I'm being
it
honest.
is our masterpiece, 100%. The other leagues are great, but the Cutthroat League is the one that we are the most proud of. I picked up Jaden Daniels. He was a surprise cut, like a person cut him, not a dead person, on like week 2, and I bid a bunch of money and got him, and
A
he's
ton of
been
money.
yeah,
And people
three
were
hundred
flaming
fab
you
or
in the
whatever,
chat.
and I
Yeah,
mean
yeah.
he's been the best player in football basically, and yeah, a lot of fun. Really, really looking forward to those leagues coming up in the future. I'm in 9 leagues, so that's too many, and I really have honed in my focus on the IASIC leagues as like my go-tos.
Yeah, you gotta downsize. That's too many. You gotta
Yeah.
find a way out of some of those leagues. We are brought to you guys by Fansided. Check out all of their great content as always. We're gonna hit you with the news, and then we have Chiefs against Niners this week. Chiefs are traveling to San Francisco, but I mean, we've seen this game like a bunch of times in the recent past. We know what the Chiefs are. We know what the Niners are. It's sort of a weird situation where like we literally know because it's the same teams. Like all of the star players on the Niners have been there since the first Super Bowl. Since
Hmm.
54, pretty much. Obviously, a little bit different quarterback, but the same quarterback that we saw the last time we played them in the Super Bowl, 8 months ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, pretty
uh, we
recent.
we could preview this game, but we've seen this matchup. We've seen it played in a million billion more consequential times types of games than this in the Super Bowl 2 times in the last 5 years. So in lieu of our normal game preview, we're going to bring you an extra special, extra long sit down with our friend Rany Jazayerli. Yes, he is back for a mid-season temperature check. Now I'm checking the calendar. It's October 17th. I understand it's only week 7, but the Chiefs are coming off of their bye week and they're 5-0. They're really only a third of the way through the season, but Royals were in the playoffs. Rany wanted to come on, and when Rany wants to come on, we say when and how long for, and we're blessed to have him. So we're going to look forward to that. But first, let's hit the injury report for the Chiefs is where we start, always with the news. Pretty clean for the Chiefs this week, except, boy, that wide receiver one curse that the Chiefs seem to be going through right now. Juju Smith-Schuster, coming off of a monster performance 2 weeks ago before the bye, is on the injury report. He popped onto the injury report today on Thursday with a hamstring injury. Never good when a guy hits the injury report late in the week like that. We
No.
don't know what his status is going to be, but that's tough because obviously the Chiefs, it was great to find, 2022 Juju in the couch cushions a couple weeks ago, and it helped the Chiefs out to a great win. And it really, I'm just speaking for me personally, brought my vibes way up going into the bye week. Like just
Yep.
seeing a wide receiver go out there after getting the Rashee news earlier that day and seeing Juju go out there and ball out and put up 130 yards and turn back the clock, very uplifting. This would be a huge blow if he is out for this week, but any amount of time after that, because there's nobody else. The cupboard is, except for Xavier Worthy, pretty bare.
Yeah. I it's like 3 injury tropes at once. It's the late in the week injury, it's the veteran injury, and it's the hamstring injury. Like
Yeah,
all of those are, I mean,
and a player that's been injury prone.
and an injury prone player, and to the one position that you can't have an injury
Yeah,
on. Like
sure.
it's all of these, like just you
It's
couldn't
all
have
coming together.
asked. You couldn't have asked for a worse injury other than all of the other injuries that have happened to the Chiefs so far. But Yeah, let's hope that he just wanted a little time off today and in the reps, and they said, "All right, what do you think, hammy?" And he was like, "Yeah, that sounds fine." I mean, like that can happen, like guys can take some time off during practice and they have to call it something. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's gonna be out for an extended period of time or any of that stuff, but it's not good. I mean, what do you even do if, let's
Yeah.
say, just worst case scenario, if Juju's out even a week or two, like
Uh,
Worthy and Sky Moore and Justin Watson? Is that your
Mark
one, two, and three?
Marquez Valdez Scantling, come on down. Recently hit the unemployment line, and he won't even be cashing
Mm.
those unemployment checks. Let's turn to that because, and we'll probably go through this with Rany too in some sense, but obviously the trade deadline is in a couple of weeks. I think it's November 5th, if memory serves,
Mhm.
and the Chiefs have sort of been linked off and on to various wide receivers on the market. Nate Taylor said that the Chiefs were looking to trade for a wide receiver and looking to trade for a wide receiver under the age of 30, which would rule out Tyreek Hill, sadly. It would also rule out the two guys who moved off of the trade market, two guys who were in the AFC and went to other AFC teams that weren't the Chiefs. Devontae Adams going from the Raiders to the Jets in probably the least surprising
Yeah,
move possible.
yeah,
A little bit surprising that he went on Kay Adams' show today and was asked whether he had any interest in going to the Chiefs, and he said negative. And he said, I don't want to say anything, that's going to make people
crazy.
upset, or yeah, don't want to say anything crazy, but no, like they wasn't going to happen. Uh, a little bit ambiguous, a little bit strange from him. And then Amari Cooper, who was a guy that we talked about on the show that I had been really interested in because of his success, being traded previously and, getting things turned around midseason, going from, I mean, probably the worst team in the NFL, if we're being honest.
Pretty close. Yep.
Certainly the worst offense in the NFL, like a historically bad offense in the NFL
Hmm.
with the sexual predator in Cleveland. Amari Cooper is going to the Buffalo Bills, which they traded away Stephon Diggs in the offseason. I think everybody could have seen that coming from a mile away that the offense would struggle without Diggs, and they drafted Keon Coleman to replace him, who really doesn't look impressive unless he's catching a
Fine.
slant and breaking some tackles. I mean, like the guy can't separate is the thing, like sure, but he's not Stephon Diggs is the point, and he's not a wide receiver one. So they make a move for Amari Cooper, and neither of these are in division trades, but they're in conference trades, and certainly the Bills are a contender. It's a little bit surprising that the Browns wanted to trade Amari Cooper, but they won't take Watson out of it. They won't bench him. They won't bench Watson. They
Not
anticipate
yet.
starting him every week. I mean, anyway, point is both of those guys are off the market. In a corresponding move, the Bills cut Marquez Valdez Scantling, which is why I bring him up. But the cupboard's getting pretty bare. And, if the Chiefs were going to make a move, before the bye would have been ideal because then you've got 2 weeks to sort of onboard a guy before you need to get him into a game. And now they don't have that option. The Chiefs obviously like to target guys who have played in Andy Reid's system before. There aren't that many guys out there because they've already brought back, they already brought back McCole Hardman last year. They
And
already brought
Juju.
back Juju Smith-Schuster this year. Like
Yeah.
there aren't that many guys out there. I guess we could see what Sammy Watkins is up to.
Sure,
Uh,
man. Let's see D
but
Rob. I mean,
sure.
like there's some guys, but yeah, it's getting late early, as they say, and the Jets are going to make Mike Williams available for a trade. He doesn't do much for me, but he is a
No,
Chiefs
he
killer.
does plenty against us. Yeah,
He
right.
does plenty against, or did in back when
Yeah,
he,
right.
was able to play football effectively, which I guess his time has passed because the Jets could not figure out a way to use him. He was a little hurt. He was coming into the year injured, and Aaron Rodgers, he's now injured emotionally. Mike Williams is because Aaron Rodgers threw him under the bus this week and said he ran the wrong route on the game losing interception that Aaron Rodgers threw, which is a very classic Aaron Rodgers move there. But
And also was not a good throw at all. So
no, he way under. He said, well, he was doing an in route, and I was trying to throw to where he was supposed to be. I'm like, well,
sure.
that's not what you're supposed to do. You're
Yeah.
supposed to throw where he is.
Also,
But
you had a guy wide open underneath. You would
yeah,
have gotten an easy
fuck
first
Aaron Rodgers.
down.
That dude sucks.
Yeah.
So the Chiefs are going to be. I don't know how many teams are interested in trading with the Chiefs. I don't know how many wide receivers would move the needle in general. In at this point, like anyone who's worth a damn, the team that they're playing for is going to have no interest in trading them,
Yeah.
obviously.
Right.
And so the Chiefs are going to have to. piece it together. They're going to have to do what they've been doing the last couple years and fight and scratch and claw their way with whoever they can bring into the building and go try and win football games. And I mean, it's kind of they're kind of like playing this season with a hand tied behind their back, and you know, I, they've shown that they're fully capable of, even when the chips are down, figuring it out and making it count. And we'll see kind of what they have in store for the next couple weeks. But I gotta say, I'm a fan of offense. I'm a fan of scoring points. I'm a fan of throwing the ball. I'm a fan of wide receivers. There is nothing here that excites me in the Chiefs right now. I mean, Worthy's nice. He's fun. He's a good little piece. Unless he takes a huge step forward, unless he basically looks like Rashee Rice looked like at the end of last year, which is entirely possible. He certainly could take a step forward throughout the year, and by the end of the year, we could be saying, "Thank God we have Xavier Worthy because we don't have anybody else." But right now, it's pretty tough.
It's pretty tough.
It's the greatest time of the year. Football is playing. We've got baseball on right now, as you all know. We've got a lot of games ahead of us where we can win some cash. So let's get it done. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year, making picks on Underdog. You can win up to 1,000 times your money by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, touchdowns, passing yards, strikeouts, you name it. Austin and I have both loved using Underdog in the past, and right now it makes watching the games a little more exciting when you've got some skin in the game. Best ball drafts, higher, lower. Those are the two things that I like because they're pretty unique to Underdog compared to the other services. The app is really easy. The interface is clean. This week I doubled up my cash. I made what I thought were pretty obvious Sunday picks, and they turned out to be obvious. So that was cool. There's nothing like that, that little dopamine hit when you nail a prediction. You think you're right, and you are, and you get paid money to do it. So making picks on Underdog, straightforward. Signing up's really easy. You head over to Underdog's really simple to use mobile app or underdogfantasy.com. You sign up with a promo code KINGDOM, KINGDOM, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code KINGDOM to claim your new special customer of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some of the games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona. Present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer void in Colorado. Concerns with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. Joining us now is friend of the show, founder of Baseball Prospectus, contributing writer to The Ringer, author of the best Royals blog in the history of the internet, Rany on the Royals, and co-host of the Kaufman Corner podcast with A10 Sports, Seren Petro. You can find him on Twitter at Jazayerli. It is Rany Jazayerli. Rany, how the heck are you tonight?
I'm doing all right, guys. How are you?
Doing awesome. It's Chiefs bye week, so there's kind of nothing, kind of everything to talk about. It's kind of a interesting time. These early buys are strange. But before we even get into the Chiefs, of course, as I introed and as everyone knows, you're the Royals guy, and so we need to just eulogize the Royals before we go into the pigskin talk. So we'll start off. The bats stayed cold. The Yankees walked a ton. The Royals lose the ALDS 3-1, getting outscored by a grand total of 2 runs. They kept Aaron Judge much more grounded than Cleveland has so far this series. They booed the hell out of Jazz Chisholm. They sold out 2 nights of playoff baseball at Kauffman Stadium. I am, of course, familiar with your Royals takes via your tweets and Kaufman Corner and all that stuff. But just for everyone else, as you look back on the 2024 Royals, what do you think you'll remember? What's the lasting impression of this team?
No need to eulogize the Royals. We come not to bury them, but to praise them. They
Love
they
it.
they were one of the this was one of the most enjoyable seasons of my adult life. Granted, it was one of only 3 seasons in my adult life where they made the postseason.
Yeah.
But even in Royals history, when you think about what they accomplished compared to preseason expectations, I'm not sure any season ranks as highly as this one does. To improve by 30 games, to go from 106 losses to the playoffs, first time in Major League history that's happened. We knew everything after qualifying for the postseason was going to be gravy. Then they went out and won a postseason series. You know, for a time there, they looked like vintage 2014 Royals going into Baltimore and scoring 2 runs, 3 runs total in 2 games and winning them both with stellar pitching and a bullpen that wouldn't give up runs and some late scoring. Um, the only thing sour about the season is that if they had to lose, it had to be to the Yankees.
Mm,
That
yeah,
Right.
part wasn't fun,
tough.
but yeah, I mean, God knows they did not embarrass themselves in the slightest. They gave the Yankees quite a scare. We're taping this just after the fairly remarkable Game 3 of the ALCS, where the Guardians came back to win after looking like they had blown a late 2-run lead with the greatest closer in baseball, Emmanuel Clase, on the mound. Um, but up until that point, it looked like the Royals had given the Yankees far more of a fright than the Guardians ever were. So they have nothing to be ashamed about. Ultimately, they were done in by the lack of offense, which had been a bit of a problem all season long, but had been obscured by the fact that they were hitting very well with runners in scoring position,
Mhm.
which not to be not to be blunt, but that's mostly luck. They were lucky. They were a below average, not terrible, but a below average offense that had enough good luck for 5 months to fake being an above average offense.
Yeah.
And then they lost Vinny Pasquantino to a thumb injury at the end of August, and somewhat because of that, somewhat just coincidence where their bats went cold with runners in scoring position, but the offense just died. Their September offensive numbers were the worst. Not just They were the second worst numbers in Royals history for any calendar month, and
Which is
the
crazy.
worst by any baseball team, I think, since I want to say 2020, since the pandemic year.
Oof.
Um, and but and very nearly coughed up a playoff spot like that. That was the most dread I think I've ever had as a Royals fan was that the next to last week of the season where they went from
Hmm.
being comfortably 4.5 games up on a playoff on the Tigers, um, needing really just to win 1 out of 3 at home against Detroit, getting
Mhm.
swept, and falling into basically a statistical tie with the Tigers and Twins going into the last week of the season. But they managed to pull out of it. Um, and then, yeah, they scored 15 runs in 6 playoff games. They went 3-3, right? But 15 runs in 6 games. That's why they went home. Ultimately, they just could not score enough runs. But it was a blast. It was a really fun year. I will say that I think the hard part is going to be repeating. I mean, as much fun as it was to make the playoffs this year, teams that improve by that much typically there is regression the following year, and so on some level, it may be a bigger challenge to repeat what they did this year next year, and that is something we will be talking about, I am sure, on Kaufman Corner. Me and my co-host Sir
Yep.
Petro all winter long. How do the Royals avoid that? But um, the bottom line is not only was it an incredibly successful season for the Royals and a step forward for the organization, but I think it also in the long term, more importantly, it sort of validates the thesis that the Royals actually have a good management team in place from the ownership up top, where John Sherman was not only willing to risk 9 figures to get Bobby Witt Jr. signed to a long-term extension before the season, but also was authorized a substantial increase in payroll for a team that had lost
Mhm.
106 games, and they were able to sign Seth Lugo. And when they had the opportunity to trade Vinny Pasquantino for a pitcher, he authorized that they spend more money to sign Michael Wacha instead, so they could keep Vinny Pasquantino. So on an ownership level, at the general manager level, where JJ Piccolo was dramatically vindicated by what the Royals did this season. That he is not Dayton
Yeah.
Moore, that he's his own man, that he's willing to gamble and be transactional and make trades and try to improve the team not just from within but from without. And obviously Cole Reagan's being turning into basically a number 1 starter from the moment that the Royals acquired him at the trade deadline in 2023. And then at the coaching level, I mean, I think Matt Quatraro might be the Royals' best manager, uh, maybe since Dick Hauser.
Sure.
And Brian Sweeney, the change on the pitching development side to go from the pitching coach. We dare not speak his name, but I will. Cal Eldred to Brian
Yeah.
Sweeney is one of the greatest upgrades at a coaching position I can think of.
About a
And that
30 win upgrade.
30 win upgrade in one season. But I
Yeah.
mean, from the worst pitching staff in baseball in 2022, not just the worst in baseball, but the only the second American League team in 60 years to finish dead last in the league in runs allowed, hits allowed, walks allowed, and strikeouts, fewest strikeouts.
Well,
Um, to go from that to, you know, maybe the best pitching or certainly the best rotation. I'd say maybe the second best to Seattle, but like one of the best rotations in baseball, one of the best rotations in Royals history. 2 years later, in 2 years,
mhm.
that is phenomenal. So no, even if the Royals do come back next year and have a fall off and win, I don't know, 76 games instead of losing 76 games, it'll be disappointment. But I feel confident in the long term that the hands that this organization is in for the long term, more so than I have since they won the World Series, certainly. And maybe even more than that, because I still to this day I still have no idea exactly how they pulled it off in 2014 to 2015, and maybe that's my own failing that I don't that what the Royals did that those 2 years. Even other organizations in the sport, the sport itself, they remain an anomaly, a glorious anomaly. But to this day, I don't think anyone fully understands how they pull it off. And more to the point, were they shrewd or were they lucky? Right. This time around, I feel like, yeah, there was some luck, like I said, with running the score position, but the actual talent on the team, they came by that. It wasn't luck. Like they actually developed talent specifically on the
Yeah.
pitching side, and then they got very lucky having the second pick in a draft where Bobby Witt Jr., a generational talent, was available. But I'm feeling pretty good about where this organization is right now, and that's not something I've been able to say for quite a while.
Rany, I asked you before the Chiefs season started, and I'm going to ask you again now. Chiefs win the Super Bowl in February. Royals win a playoff series after you said it, a historic 1 year turnaround. And look at that. The Chiefs are 5-0 to begin their three-peat quest.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the best season in Kansas City professional sports history? Did we get there?
I mean, so the question is kind of
Best
dependent
year.
on, right, is it a
Sure.
is it a rolling 12 months? You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Like, because
Yeah. Yeah.
the Chiefs season
Are we
comes
going
before.
February? If we're going February to February, obviously we can't. I mean, maybe we can. I mean, maybe we can already say February to February.
Well,
This is
that's
it.
what I'm wondering, right? Like, I think if you
Sure.
just look at it, what is the best 12-month span, right? And
Sure.
it can be rolling. In that case, I mean, you have a repeat Super Bowl championship and a playoff team wrapped in there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, maybe. I mean, you think about, okay, the Royals, they won the World Series in '85 and in 2015. '85, the Chiefs didn't make the playoff. I think was it '86, I believe, that they had their fluky 10-6. They had like the one playoff team in there, but I don't think that was within a 12-month span. In 2015, the Chiefs did win a playoff game, right? That to me,
They
that
did.
might be
Right.
the closest comp because
Yeah.
it
You
depends on
had
how
two
you look
Royals
at,
pennants.
right, two Worlds pennant. They didn't have back-to-back championships, but back-to-back pennants and a World Series for a small
Mm-hmm.
market team in a sport where no one thought that possible, where they hadn't made the playoffs in 29 years. I
And
might
the Chiefs
argue,
hadn't won a playoff game in.
right, in 22
And
years, at the moment,
and the Chiefs went from 1-5 to win their last 11 games of that year in 2015
yeah, and then
and
they
make the
shut out
playoffs. I
the
mean,
Texans 30-0.
right.
Was it Brian Hoyer, I think, who started for the
Yeah.
Texans in that
Yeah.
game?
Sounds
Definitely was.
right. Yeah.
With a
Yeah.
Knile Davis
That
kickoff return
Niall
touchdown in that
yeah,
game.
Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
might argue that moment after that win and before they lost to the Patriots the following week, that 12-month stretch might still rank as
It's a good
the
one.
highest, because the Royals and the Chiefs both had just accomplished something they hadn't accomplished in decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe I would say that. Although if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this February because the game
Yeah.
this year is like February 8th. So it's technically
It's
like 11 months and
Yeah.
I
28
love how
days.
you
Oh
So
man.
that would be, I think, the pinnacle.
Yeah.
If you wrapped a historic Royals playoff appearance in between two Super Bowl championships to mark the first three-peat in Super Bowl history.
It's hard to
That
beat.
that will be the peak. Right now, I think I put this second to that 2015 stretch, though.
Well, we will bookmark this question and ask you again in February if we can
It's a
confirm
it's a
that
fun
rolling
question to
12.
ask.
It is. It's great that we are asking about
Hey,
now and
it's
not.
great that this season is even in the conversation.
That's what I'm.
We've
Yeah.
been very blessed, which
We have. I'm trying.
we'll
I mean,
discuss.
imagine asking the opposite. What would be the worst 12-month rolling stretch?
Ooh,
Yeah.
uh,
There have been enough of those to go around.
I'm
well,
I'm
thinking
good.
what
though.
2012 for the
Devon
Chiefs, 2 and
Belcher.
I
14,
was going to
Yeah.
say
Devon
the
Belcher. What did
Devon
the
rapper
Belcher.
Royals
in the
do?
stairwell
Yeah, what did
Yeah.
the Royals do
but
in
that was the year. I mean, at least the Royals were putting together like the
Yeah.
foundation of that 2014 team.
yeah.
Um, and then with the depths of the
Yeah,
Allard
they were
Baird years, that
72
was
and
Dick
90. I
Vermeil.
mean, that
I'm
was a
vetoing this
decent
topic.
season for
We're vetoing. We're moving
yeah.
on from the worst,
Okay,
most horrible
let's
memories of all of our lives.
let's get out of here before this gets too
So
dark.
Okay.
but let's do turn to the Chiefs full time because that's fun. This is a complete ADD moment for me. Before we start talking about the 2024 season, I was doing a little bit of what I like to call football archaeology, just digging around, just seeing what used to happen in days of yore. And I'm curious what you think about this topic. First, what is your guess at how many times since the merger a team has scored 48 or more points and lost the game in NFL history? Or
Say this
yeah,
again. How many times in
since 70.
NFL?
How many times a team has scored 48 or more in a game and lost the game?
48 or more points and lost the game. That's not a question I was expecting. So let me
Yep.
think about. I mean,
Yep.
obviously there's the 54-51 loss the Royals
Correct.
had,
This is kind of what got me on the path of the archaeology.
which I believe they needed to get to 51 to set, or maybe 49 to get to the record. So it had been done at least once before.
Correct.
I'm going to say three times total.
Very close. It's five,
Five.
and that's not a lot. Four of those times happened from 2004 on, so recent NFL history. We had the
Oh,
04 Browns.
was one of those a playoff game or was that a 40
None
45
of
game? The Packers
um,
Cardinals
yeah,
had a
Packers
wild
Cardinals
game.
with the Hail Mary, I think that Rodgers hit in that one.
Yeah. Was
That was a just short of this mark.
okay. So I think maybe it was
Oh 4
45.
Browns and Bengals was a 58-48 Bengals win, which is crazy.
Hmm.
Then a classic duel in 2013 between Tony Romo's Cowboys and they lost to Peyton Manning's Broncos 51-48. There was a Eli Manning versus Drew Brees that ended 52-49, and of course, as you brought up and we all remember, Chiefs Monday Night Football 54-51 Rams. But until that 2004 game that the Browns lost, only one team since the merger had done that, had scored 48 and lost, and it was the 1983 Kansas City Chiefs. And I was shocked by this. I didn't remember this game. Austin was shocked by it. He said, "How have we not brought this game up when we talked about 54-51?" Because it just seems like something we would have known by now. So
We would
I
not have
was going
remembered it
down.
because we were not alive. But
Well, yeah, but I mean,
something that
I know about plenty of
sure.
stuff that the
Yes,
Chiefs
no,
have
I
gotten
know.
up
But
to before I
yes,
was alive.
it's
I'm
something
just
that we
really
should have
shocked that.
something that we should have uncovered, unearthed before now.
So this is a 1983 shootout between the Seahawks and the Chiefs. Before I describe what happened in this game, I'm just curious. Has this game ever come up on your radar? Do you know anything about this game, or is this complete news to
I
you?
do not. In fact, when you first my greatest fear when you mentioned 1983, I'm like, don't tell me that John Elway did that to us. But
No.
fortunately, it was
Yeah.
not. It was the
John
Seahawks.
Elway score more than 48 points.
Nah,
Get out of
never,
here.
never.
Uh,
So let me just paint this picture real quick. It's very funny. It was a Week 13 game. The 5-7 Chiefs were visiting the 6-6 Seahawks in the Kingdom. Bill Kenny from the Chiefs jumped out to a 21-7 lead on future way down the line Chief Dave Craig. And the Seahawks then, of course, in a game that is really high scoring, come roaring back as you'd expect. They take a 31-28 lead at the end of the third quarter. All very ho-hum football stuff, nothing super crazy. Bill Kenny runs one in to end the quarter. The Chiefs are back up 35-31. Dave Craig throws his only pick of the game. Carlos Carson scores a touchdown for the Chiefs, gives the Chiefs a 42-31 lead. And then here come the damn Seahawks. Touchdown Seahawks, Chiefs punt, touchdown Seahawks on 4th and 6 to give the Birds a 45-42 lead with 2:21 to go. So the Chiefs get the ball, go right down the field. I was watching this game on YouTube because I had to find footage of it. And I mean, it's dimes from just absolute darts from Bill Kenny to Stephon Page to Theodis Brown. Theodis Brown catches a touchdown in the corner of the end zone that is first ruled an interception by the defense in the end zone. Both guys came down with it. And then the refs just got together and then both held up their hands, touchdown. It looked like the call was fine from the crappy YouTube video I was watching, but I'm sure people were mad at the time because, as you know, the Chiefs have gotten every call in the history of time, so including this one.
Well, going
Nick
41
Lowry,
years now. That's right. We have an
it's been
uninterrupted
forever.
streak.
Exactly. So Nick Lowry trots out and to kick an extra point that would put the Chiefs up 4, but of course he misses his only extra point out of 45 attempts on the season.
This
And
is
the
back when they
Chiefs,
were from like the
yeah,
the 2 yard line. It
two.
was like
Yeah,
an
it was a
18 or
19
19
point
yard.
extra point. Yep, exactly. So he shanks it left in the Kingdom in a dome, so there's no weather or the snap was fine. He just shanked it. So instead, the Chiefs only go up 48-45. Dave Craig spins out of 3 or 4 sacks on one play and throws just a complete prayer to some idiot Seahawk that I didn't even see who it was, who then also spins out of a few tackles, basically gets the ball to midfield on the first play, and then they find a guy wide open to get into easy field goal range with 12 seconds left, and they take a shot at the end zone. Chiefs DB back there has a really good shot at picking off the ball in the end zone, which would have been an insane way to end it, but he drops the pick. So they kick a game-tying 42-yard field
You
goal.
you sound awfully angry about a game
I
that we
watched,
played
yes,
41 years ago.
I
Like
was. I was extremely mad. I was getting triggered. It was definitely like it got me. So then the Seahawks win the coin toss, of course, as you would expect, and they run the opening kick back 50 yards, and then dink a couple runs to get it, and then kick a walk-off 42-yard field goal. Chiefs don't even get the ball. And look, do I wish that this game recap was more relevant to our discussion this week? Sure, but I wasn't going to let you out of here without at least talking you through that insane game because it felt like the type of game that, before the Mahomes era, like that's classic Chiefs loss. Like that is just such a, they had it, they go back and forth. I don't know. I was very frustrated, as you heard. The Chiefs were 2-6 against the AFC West that year with a run, or I almost said run differential, a point differential of plus 14 in those 8 games, and they lost 6 of them.
I'm
So
sorry, you lost me when you told me that Bill Kenny and Dave Craig
yeah,
combined, their
yeah,
teams combined for 99 points. Like this game
yes,
is
yes.
already like off of my radar at that point. That cannot possibly be real football.
Bill
You were
Kenny
you were
threw
watching a
4
very
touchdowns.
convincing Madden simulation.
Yes, Bill Kenny threw 4 touchdowns in this game and ran 2 more in. He's the only Chiefs quarterback ever with 2 rushing touchdowns and even 1 passing touchdown in a game. No one else has ever done it. It was crazy.
Four passing
4
and 2
passing.
rushing. Is he
Uh-huh.
like on the all-time NFL list? Is he there with like Lamar Jackson, like
Yeah, sure.
Lamar Jackson
Yeah.
and Bill
Michael
Kenny?
And
Like,
Bill
Vick,
Kenny.
maybe one
I
time.
mean, he threw
I think Vic
300
did it
yards,
once
4
in that Monday
touchdowns,
night
no
game.
picks, and 2 rushing touchdowns. It was yes, Vic did do it against I think it was
I was
Washington.
going to say,
or
how many
whatever.
guys have
Yeah.
done that in a loss?
Oh, right,
probably
exactly.
nobody.
And I mean, yeah, and he put up 48. So he's so also just to recap, 5 times a team has ever scored 48 and lost, and the Chiefs are 2 of them. And the other 3 have only done it once. So just wanted to go down memory lane there. It was frustrating. But that's Chiefs for you.
Is this how you maintain your edge in the Patrick Mahomes
Yeah.
era? Is this how you
Yeah.
maintain your nobody believes
Yeah.
in us
Definitely.
persona? Because wow, you're really reaching back a long ways for some motivation.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I-
it's, 40
I
years.
understand because like that game seems like a different well, I mean, it is a different era, but it seems
Sure.
almost like a different sport than the
Sure.
one the Chiefs are playing now. So I can't imagine that happened to the Chiefs. And if it did, it wouldn't matter because
Yeah.
it would be a regular season game that we would get revenge for in the playoffs anyway, right? Like
Yes.
Right.
it kind of reminds me of the game. I'm trying to what year was it? Let me look this up. I think it was probably 2020. Maybe 2020. Yeah, the random when the 2020 when the Chiefs started 4-0 and then they had that completely random loss to the Raiders 40-32.
Sure.
Do you remember where like
Oh yeah.
I think it was Derek Carr that day? Was it?
It
just
was.
like suddenly
It was
just
the
couldn't do
COVID
no
crowd
wrong.
at Arrowhead, so there were only 16,000 fans, and they took the bus and did the lap around the stadium.
Yeah,
afterwards.
that was what it was. And I just remember at the end of the game, I wasn't even mad. It was
Yeah.
just kind of like that was weird. But
Yeah.
it was also even then, coming off the first Super Bowl triumph, and my feeling was well, that sucks. We're not going to go undefeated because at that point we're 4. And sure enough, I mean, had it not been for that game, keep in mind the Chiefs were 14-1 that year. They would have been
Right.
15-0
Yep.
and probably
Yeah.
not resting all their regulars on week 17 when they lost to the Chargers, which would have probably made the game against Tom
Oh
Brady
my
in the
God.
Super Bowl
Hold
with
on
an
though.
undefeated
Hold on.
Can you
team
believe?
with
Thank
19 and
God,
0
thank God
on
for
the
John
line.
Gruden and Derek Carr, because if the
Honestly,
Chiefs
yes,
went
they
18
did.
and 1
They
and
did
lost
us
to
a
Tom
favor.
Brady,
Yes,
Yeah.
holy God.
think
By
about
the
that.
way, before we get into the 2024 Kansas City Chiefs, with apologies, the 1983 Chiefs, because you asked, Randy, do either of you care to guess how many times in his career John Elway's team scored 48 or more points?
I'm
Because
gonna
I have
Let's
say
the answer.
go with
I have,
zero.
I have
zero.
the
I'm gonna
answer.
say. I'm gonna say. You said zero. Fine. I'll bid one.
No, they're zero. It's zero.
It is
Never
zero.
happened. Never happened. Not once. Bill Kinney and who did you say it was that was in this game?
Dave
Dave
Craig.
Krieg.
Dave Craig.
Yeah.
Dave Craig and
Yeah.
Bill Kinney combined scored more points in a game than John Elway ever did in his career for a
Well,
six
Pretty
I
and
good.
can
ten
tell you,
for a
John
6-10
Elway.
Chiefs team, by the way. So
I'm pretty sure John Elway gave up, or his teams gave up 48 points because
no, that definitely
I'm
happened.
pretty sure they gave up 48 points in the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah,
Multiple times.
that
Um,
Yeah.
happened more than
Yeah.
to
once.
the let's see,
Worst
42 to
Super
the.
Bowl point differential of all time, the Denver Broncos. So it's a record that they will probably always hold, and we love that for them. Well, Randy, let's talk about the 2024 Chiefs. They're 5-0, but are they good? They're on a 10-game winning streak, but they've not scored more than 27 points in any of those games. So they are now one win away
That's
from
an NFL
tying.
record, baby. They just keep
That's right.
racking up records.
That's
I
right.
think
So the longest winning streak in NFL history without scoring more than 27 points is actually set. They're one away from it. It's 11, but it's by the 1928 to 1929
I thought they had
Packers.
tied the record. Okay,
So
one more to go. All
The
right.
so
modern
one more to
record.
go, and we're talking about, I mean, pre-merger, like pre-integration, pre-civil rights.
Pre-forward pass, probably.
Yeah.
Pre-forward pass, pre-World War II. We're talking 100. We're talking 100 years ago, almost. That we're talking about this record that they're one away. The last time, remember when the Chiefs had that streak where they never scored under 26 points? Pretty funny. To reminisce about those times. We're going to be doing that a lot tonight. They've played 9 one-score games in their last 11 games. They've won all of them, and did Mina Kimes dunk on me for posting a meme about wanting to hurt myself during Chiefs games? Yes. Do I stand by it? Yes. This is a historically stressful winning streak, but it is also a winning streak. What do you make of all of this, Randy? It's just weird.
The Chiefs have definitely entered. They've entered a zone that not only suppresses not only what like a great team does, not only what championships teams do. They're at a different level where they could be 5-0, and we're not sure whether we should be vaguely disappointed in the team, whether we should be whether we should work under the assumption that they're just playing with their food, so to speak, and just kind of, it's like they're a cat and their opponents are a mouse, and they're just, playing with it, with their claws and dangling it from their tail while they, lick their lips, or whether, like ordinarily a team that constantly wins the very close games, I would accuse of just being lucky, right? Certainly in baseball, we talk about, one run record, your record one run games is usually, there's mostly luck. Now, there are things you can do that are repeatable that lead to successful close games. You can have a great bullpen. But in football, I'm not sure there's anything quite comparable to having a great bullpen that allows you to win the close games, except maybe having the greatest quarterback of all time. Possibly
Sure
that could help. But I mean, you look at the season, and like they beat the Ravens because of a toe that would have led to a 2-point conversion against a gas defense for the game. They beat the Bengals on a field goal, a 51-yarder? Certainly not a gimme, even for the great Harrison Butker.
Because the refs rigged.
The refs rigged that game, yes. But they did
to
what
get
they
us
had.
in field goal range. So
Was it a 4th and 16 that
Yeah.
they called a I mean, the refs definitely, took over the game because they called pass interference on an obvious pass interference.
They did their jobs.
They did their
Yeah.
jobs. How dare they? You're not supposed to do your job in the last 2 minutes of the game. You're supposed to
No,
let the
can't do that.
players play, even
That's
if the
right.
players are cheating. But still close, could have gone either way. Um, but then the Falcons game, I mean, they had a fourth down stop, an amazing defensive play. And then it does feel like they're rounding into shape now, right? Like you look at just the margins of victory, 7 point win,
They're
1 point
creeping up.
win, 5, 7, and then 13 against a Saints team, which, well, I was going to say was looking good until that game, but as we speak,
Yeah.
they are down 26 to
Yeah.
3 to
Not
the
great.
Broncos and the great Bo Nix. By the way, not to hijack this, but am I wrong in saying that Bo Nix might actually be kind of, from our perspective, like the perfect Broncos quarterback?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
Great. It's great.
No, you're not
statistically,
wrong.
like I've seen enough. Like I saw the absolutely hysterical pass today where he had two wide open receivers and somehow managed
Yep.
to loft the
Yeah.
ball right between them, which was
Yeah.
just that's a hard
All,
thing to do.
yeah.
But his statistical numbers are just good enough to make me think that they're going to stick with this guy and give
Hmm.
him plenty of rope. Like, God, God knows Sean Payton's not going to acknowledge he made a mistake for, a
No,
couple of years here.
no.
And he's somewhat mobile. He is a decent has a decent completion percent. Like, you squint really tight, and you think you might have a poor man's Drew Brees here, and they're just going to give him every opportunity to prove that he's not.
He's
And then
incredible.
my favorite stat of all of Bo Nix's stat is that he's 2 weeks older than Nick Bolton.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
absolutely
That's a good
love
one.
that fact that
That's
he's
funny.
that it's just like does anybody look at Nick Bolton and say, well, give this guy more time to develop, he's going to become an
Yeah.
even better
He's just
player.
starting.
Like,
Yeah.
Nick Bolton, I think, is a really good player, but he's pretty much maxed out what he can do. And it's like, is Bo Nix really going to get better? Yeah, maybe. Okay, experience matters too. But I just look at him and I'm just like, man, this guy's going to be the perfect quarterback to lull the Broncos into, like, you know, back-to-back 7 and 10
Mediocrity.
seasons.
Totally.
And
And
yeah,
he's doing the same thing to Sean Payton, where, if Sean Payton had a worse quarterback, the Broncos might be thinking about maybe moving on or whatever. But like they're both going to kind of keep each other
They're
afloat,
both just
and
going to
it's
go
perfect.
7-10 or
Yeah.
8-9 or nine
They're
and
going to
eight
beat
for the
some
next
teams that we
three
want
or
them to
four
beat.
years.
Some other AFC
exactly.
contenders, they're
And
It's
going
going
to
to be
good
jump
enough
up
to
incredible.
and
7 or 8 draft pick either.
yes.
Like, it kind of reminds me of the early John Gruden years in with the Raiders, where they
Yeah,
weren't
great point.
terrible,
Uh-huh.
but they were just good
They're
enough to
feisty,
and
keep
but
right.
every once in a while, Sean Payton or a John Gruden beats the Chiefs, and then you can be like, look, I beat the Chiefs. Sean Payton, he ended the streak last year, so like, I
right.
mean, he's good
Uh,
for a decade.
I was going to
Like
say, I
keep him
don't. You
around.
know what? I could do with that no more than once a decade. I
No,
think
no,
that's
I agree
fine.
with
Sure.
that. But
But he
I
got
think he'll
him,
be in good
so
shape.
if it
okay.
keeps the mediocre coach quarterback combination in Denver's good graces, and it didn't work
So
for Russell
sometimes you
Wilson
have to
because
play
they
the long
benched him
game
after
if you're
that.
the
But
Chiefs. That's fair.
um,
Yeah.
my favorite Bo Nix age stat, by the way, is that Patrick Mahomes, when he was Bo Nix's age, was like halfway into his first Super Bowl title defense. So pretty funny.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, there's levels to this, but
Yeah,
Do you know the
exactly.
Gridiron Heights animations that
Oh yeah. Oh, I one of my favorite inside jokes from that was, as you guys know, maybe not the listeners, but they always give rookie quarterbacks
yeah,
the
little
voice
baby
of like a
voice.
3-year-old baby
yeah,
voice.
yeah,
And then in
That's
the
why I brought
opening
this
in the
up.
opener this year, they had, I don't know, it was Jaden Daniels or
Uh-huh.
Caleb Williams, and then Bo Nix with, like, you know it was like Denny Matthews' voice is like deep
Yeah.
and gravelly, and
yeah.
I mean, and with no warning, I cackled. It was perfect.
That's
So
why I brought it up. It's one of my
yes,
favorite, and they're great at all the little
the
NFL jokes.
inside
But
joke. I mean, this
yeah,
little 90-second, like,
yeah,
terrible animation, but like the guys who write the copy for that show are just brilliant. So,
agreed.
but yes, that was great. To get back to your question about what do I think about this team, like, we talk about, I don't know how good they are. But the bigger thing is when they've reached the level where I don't know how much it matters.
Right.
I
Yeah,
really don't. I mean,
sure.
it's like, do we like I know the only issue I have with your meme about I'm excited to
Yeah.
watch my team play and then I'm going to kill myself is that I don't really feel that way in the regular season anymore
Well,
because
you're more mentally balanced than me, Randy,
I
but
mean it's just a matter of like I said and I just remember going back to that Raiders game. I mean
that's
now
fair.
last year, but even last year when they lost 6 games and for a brief time looked like they might cough up the division, although I never really felt that, but it was like they repeatedly were just shooting themselves in the foot. But even then it was just like we knew they were doing it to themselves.
Right.
And it really feels like on some level the Chiefs opponent is no longer the team that they're playing on the field.
Totally.
It's
It's felt like that for
themselves,
a
it's
while. Yeah.
history, it's legacy.
Yep.
It's that is, and that's my point when I say they've ascended to a level that even championship caliber teams don't ascend to. This is a new experience, right? For me as a sports fan, and I would dare say most sports fans never have the experience of rooting for a team that is looking for its place in the history of the sport. I mean, Yankee
Hmm.
fans in the late 90s, Bulls
Hmm.
fans in the 90s. Like there are, certain, points in times and franchises that get to feel this. But you're lucky if you get this experience once in your lifetime as a sports fan, even if you root for, a team in multiple sports. And we're
Right.
living through that right now where it's like, yeah, it's great that they're 5-0, but I think it's funny because like there's a chance. Who is it? The Texans, I think, are 5-1. Like, if the
Yeah.
Texans lose this weekend, and the Chiefs win, like the Chiefs would have a 2-game edge on every single team in the AFC through 6 games,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And they're like, and they're missing wide receivers, and it's like they're doing this with Patrick Mahomes not really being the most important part of the team. I mean, that's the question here. Is like, are they doing this is I guess the question I have is Patrick Mahomes actually better than we think because they're doing this without anything remotely approaching a number two receiver. At any point
Sure.
between
Right.
the start of last year and now, their best number two receiver. I'm going through this. I mean, there was a brief moment where maybe you would say Xavier Worthy was their number two behind Rashee Rice, right before Rashee got injured,
Sure.
maybe,
Yeah.
but like there was a very brief moment where you would say that you had two of the, I don't know, 50 best receivers in football
Yeah.
on your team.
Maybe the first preseason snap before Hollywood went down.
Right. Well, I
Maybe.
don't, yeah, counting regular season games. I mean,
Yeah.
so is he really that good or is it, or do we just acknowledge, what? I mean, Patrick's numbers are down, which is not a sign that he's a worse player, but just that he doesn't have young Tyreek Hill and prime of career Travis Kelce and, Sammy Watkins maybe was underrated or whatever. But they have put so many resources into the defense that it just no longer matters. Like to me, that's the question of the 2024 and retrospect, the 2023 Chiefs. At what point did the defense become the the sort of the dominant force and the primary story of this franchise? Is that the
Hmm.
defense is just, I mean, this year it's like as good as they were last year. I didn't think they'd get better. I'm not sure they're better, but when it comes to like rushing defense,
Yeah,
it's like they just decided,
it might
oh
be better.
yeah, we're just going to stop people from running on us anymore too.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
just it's remarkable and that's the thing. And I think it affects the way that Patrick plays in the sense that he doesn't have to, throw bombs because he knows if they score 20, they don't have to score 28 points to win anymore. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They don't have they score 20 and they're probably going to win. So it's just I watch these games. On the one hand, the results almost don't matter. On the other hand, I think it's fascinating because it makes you wonder, can they make this transition from the greatest show on grass to the greatest offense maybe I've ever seen in the 2018-2019 seasons to one of the great defensive teams in 2023 and 2024 without missing a beat in between.
This is a great transition point, Randy. You always nail it. And I compliment you on your zen when you're watching these games. Um, I think this maybe gets to just, sort of searching myself and my soul. I think this gets to my level of, let's say, irritation, with watching the Chiefs. And I have to ask you about this. I have to ask for your blessing in this because I feel like you've sort of been the voice, nationally of many Chiefs fans when you've been doing your annual columns for the Ringer, and Taylor and I have complimented you on this before. I mean, those columns really just, I think, captured in a really powerful way what it's like to be a Chiefs fan. So I have to ask your permission in this. Are we as Chiefs fans allowed to be kind of bummed out at how the season has played out so far? Even though the Chiefs are 5-0, I understand they're in first place in the AFC. They're one of two undefeated teams in the league. They have won back-to-back Super Bowls. Okay, but Patrick Mahomes has 6 touchdowns in 5 games, and he has 6 picks. Like, he's not, he hasn't thrown. He finally threw 300 yards last week. The
For
offense
the
that
first
was
time since the
supposed
Super Bowl.
for the first time since the Super Bowl, which went to overtime, by the way. The offense was supposed to feature Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, fastest man in NFL combine history, Xavier Worthy, and Travis Kelce. They're down to one of those guys, and Travis Kelce. They're dead last in the league in explosive plays on offense. They literally don't have a single explosive rush the entire year. And by the way, they are first in rushing success rate and without a single explosive run the entire year. So they're just like hammering those 5 to 9 yard runs, which is great. And listen, look, like, I love winning. Winning is really cool, but like, am I allowed to be sad that this team is not setting records and being the greatest show on grass like we hoped, and I feel like very reasonably expected? I mean, we talked about this before the season, before the Chiefs lost half of their wide receivers and they're cycling through tackles again, and Patrick Mahomes is playing through a little bit of a funk. Am I allowed to be like a little bit bummed out by that? Or should I just be happy with the fact that we just win all the time?
Yes, I think you're allowed to be a little bit bummed in the sense that for one thing, like while the regular season results don't matter, what does matter is the strength of this team going into the postseason. And
Sure.
being without Rashee Rice is gonna suck.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
as much as I hope that he has a Vinny Pasquantino-esque return from his injury, and I suppose that is they have not ruled out
Right.
that he'll be back for the postseason. But it seems unlikely. Hollywood Brown might be back for the postseason, but even
Yeah.
that's not assured. So the fact that the guys that you thought would be your number one and number two wide receivers for Patrick Mahomes are not going to play for the team for at least the rest of the regular season, and probably more importantly in the playoffs, that does kind of suck. Because
Mhm.
if the Chiefs do not three-peat, we are going to look back at those two injuries as a huge reason why. Now, injuries happen in the NFL. There's just no way around it. But to happen to the specific players that would have made a great team into a fun and great team, that yes, you're allowed to be a little bit bummed about that.
Okay. That's good.
But at the same time, if they win, we will. I don't think we will look back at this team and be like, yeah, they did something no team in NFL history has ever done before. But I wish they had more panache.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I don't look back at last year at the fact that I mean the receiving core was even worse last year, and
Oh my God. It was
the
not fun a
drops.
lot of the time.
No,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, because last year in some ways it was worse because of the drops. This year there haven't
Yeah.
been as many drops at least. But there's still time. MVS is out there, so we might
Well,
we might get to repeat that. But like I look back at last season, and I don't look at the receiving core's failures and the drops during the season as the defining story. I look at the fact that they went out and won 4 playoff games against the hardest
Yeah.
playoff schedule by DVOA in NFL history, despite all that, as an incredible story. And that's, to me, that is what I remember when you asked me about the 2023 Chiefs specifically. It's having a playoff run with no receivers that you really trusted against really, really good playoff teams in winning game after game. So, in the moment, yeah, be a little bit bummed. But all I'm really bummed about is that I'm worried that this will cost us a playoff game in 3 months. Right now, I'm trying to focus on the fact that the defense is, it is Steve Spagnuolo's like dream has been crystallized. Like this to me is the ultimate manifestation of what Steve Spagnuolo wanted. Where like the ultimate dream would be for him to have 11 guys on defense all of whom can play all 11 positions, right?
Yeah,
Like
that's
that
right.
will,
Yeah.
you will never have a team where, Chris Jones is playing safety, um, and, and Justin Reed is nose tackle. Like that won't happen. But this is
Oh,
about
that'd
as
be great.
close as we get. All right. We're even seeing Leo Chenal line up as a fullback now on
Right.
plays, right? Like,
Yeah.
um,
A
and
lineup of 11 or 9 switch hitting utility men
I
basically
mean,
is what
basically,
is what Spag wants. Yeah.
some like the '87 Cardinals
Sure.
in football form, where it's Chris Jones and then 10 guys who can play everywhere else. Um, we don't have that, but I mean, the point is like every guy on that. It's not just the physical talents, but like that they all are smart enough to understand. I've thought of like in football, the offense for so long, offense dictated the action, right? Like the offense is the one that calls the play, the defense reacts to the play. So, historically, I've always thought of like, intelligence and sort of strategy is more important on the offensive side, whereas defense it tends to reward just quick reactions. And so you
Sure.
think of athleticism, right? You think about colleges, they want their best athletes on defense
Mhm.
Yeah.
because you can scheme your way to a decent offense. You can't really scheme your way to a good defense. Um, and I think what has happened, and one of the reasons why I think offense is down in football over the last 2 to 3 years, is that we have seen so many defenses have learned how to scheme in such a way where it used to be that they would set up in whatever package they're playing, whether they're in dime or nickel. If it's a cover two versus cover one, and the quarterback sees that, and then he has the ability to make that last minute adjustment and dictate the tempo of how that play is going to go. And what happened, and I think Steve Spagnuolo is one of the main instigators of this, is that we are now seeing defenses have the sort of the last piece of input where they get to they set up, the quarterback calls whatever his audible is going to be or whatever, and then at the last moment you've got guys rotating coverage, and defense is suddenly showing, sometimes pre-snap, sometimes post-snap, um, showing a different look that the quarterback's not expecting. And I think that's making offenses, I think it's making offense much more difficult. And I think that Spags is one of the best guys in the business at doing that. And it's almost a different way of playing defense now that I'm not used to, and it's a lot of fun to watch that. And also
Yeah.
because it allows him to make you, and you see those adjustments as the game goes along, where the defense is better by the end of the game because they figure out everything the offense is trying, and also because he saves some of his biggest surprises for the most important situations. You think about Trent McDuffie, blitzing against Brock Purdy and the key defensive stop in the Super Bowl or whatever.
2 minute warning to Super Bowl.
Yeah. So
Yep.
so I just think that the way that they're playing defense now, that to me is I'm enjoying that in lieu of the fact that Patrick Mahomes to this point is not getting the opportunity to make two or three plays I've never seen in my life before in any given game.
Of course, in classic you fashion, I had a little defense question I had teed up, so well done knocking that out. There was a recent primetime football game. I don't remember the teams, but one of the D coordinators was interviewed, and he was talking about how I want to have the pencil last, like exactly what you're talking about. Like I want to be able to make the last adjustment, not the offense, because for the longest time, it absolutely was that the defense shows something, the offense adjusts to it, then the good offense beats good defense. That was always just the way that it worked. And then now it does seem like they're disguising, they're rotating, they're doing a lot more things to confuse. Maybe partially due to young quarterbacks that haven't seen everything yet, but I do think that it's just in general. You have a ton of smart defensive coordinators, and you always have, but they seem to be elevated on the coaching hierarchy these days of like the smartest guys in the room. And on a lot of these teams, look like it's actually the D coordinator, and that's really interesting to me. Um, we mentioned earlier about not scoring 27 or more for the Chiefs offense in this run that they're on. The Chiefs also have the longest active streak in the league of not allowing 40 or more in a game. We brought up two of those games. There are three times in the Mahomes era that they allowed
Hmm.
40 or more. They did, of course, the Rams 54-51. You brought up um,
The
the other
Raiders.
the Raiders, the 40 to
Right.
32 one. There was one more in there. Do you guys remember which one it was?
Hmm.
Patriots 43-40
Oh yeah, yeah, where they won that game,
That is
right?
correct. No, they
against
lost. They went into
Oh, that was the
Foxborough.
right,
That
the
was
Mahomes'
his
last
first
first
second field
loss
loss.
goal.
ever.
Pat's first
That
loss. Yep.
was Pat's first loss. It was
At the
they
buzzer, game-winning drive
Right.
by
So
Brady.
right.
that's
They
right.
didn't give him any time with the ball.
They had a late Tyreek touchdown there to take the lead, and then yeah, it was back and forth. Great game, but that's the only three times in his career that his defense has given up 40 or more. But I mean, and that's now the longest. The Raiders game in 2020 is the last time the Chiefs have given it up, and that's the long. No one else in the league can reach back to 2020 for the last time that they've done that. It's like the Chiefs are like a Big Ten team now, and not new 28 team Big Ten conference or whatever. I mean, like classic Iowa, Michigan,
Right.
Ohio State, like
Yeah,
14 to 10
Randy's in
rock
Michigan.
fights.
He's
Right.
in
It's
Like,
it's
Michigan, and he
it's uh,
knows
it's
he
a
knows
Big
all
Ten
about
team
that.
yeah,
with the best quarterback in the sport, which,
yes,
and historically
yes,
that's how Big Ten teams end up playing for a national championship when they just happen to
right.
have that guy.
Right. The defense has been. I mean, you asked earlier when did it switch? 2023 sometime, and maybe early when because 2022 best offense in the league, number one DVOA, Pat wins MVP, win the Super Bowl. Like even though they didn't have the all the weapons, Juju was pretty good that year, and they looked like a damn good offense all year. And then 2023 something kind of flipped, and I don't know exactly when or exactly what or why or whatever, but they became a defensive unit. Maybe that rookie class in 2023 was unbelievable. And I
And
mean,
great in the playoffs until the Super Bowl.
great in the
I
playoffs.
I tweeted this out today, but Emmanuel Acho was, saying, "Look, what's going to happen the next time the Chiefs give up
Right.
35 points in a game?"
Well, the last
They
time they
have
gave up
the last
35
time they did it was
points
in the Super Bowl
and they won.
against
Pretty
the
good.
Eagles, and they won, and they haven't done it in 26 games since then. So 26 games without allowing 35 points in a game is pretty insane.
Yeah. Yeah, especially in this league. Like teams score and it's just it's been remarkable. So I mean Spags needs to get all the flowers and all the love. We talk all the time about Pat and Andy and all the things that we know about this team, but I mean Spags is as good at his job as anyone in that building is at theirs. He's unbelievable. I didn't really have a question, but my God, that defense is the only reason the Chiefs are in this right now.
I mean, yes, but at the same time, I look at what Patrick is doing, and like again, statistically, his numbers are way down by his standards. Others are kind of like league average, which,
Sure.
like I
League
said,
average NFL
that's
quarterback,
which
still
is
fine.
terrible for Patrick Mahomes. That's absolutely
Yeah.
horrible. But
Yeah.
you know, but part of it is, yeah, okay, he doesn't have all the weapons he needs. He keeps throwing to guys who've been released. Like I do wonder on like the Chiefs keep violating every analytics rule that I've come up with in my career, which things like don't rely on winning close games because you can't
You can't.
that's not repeatable.
Yeah.
You
Screw
can't
that.
rely on it.
It is
Yeah.
for the Chiefs. Don't stick with veterans for too long because or if you have a championship team, you have to have some turnover from one season to the next because teams that try to run it all back tend to fall apart. The Chiefs literally had to run it back as like their motto one year. I think that was the year,
21
they
or
look, even if
20.
they didn't
Yeah.
pull it off, but like they've made it to the AFC Championship game overtime like every single year. So that hasn't hurt them. And like now here is like, oh, Kareem Hunt sitting at home. We need a running back. Call Kareem Hunt. Oh, Juju Smith-Schuster was just released by the. Well, let's bring him in. 130-yard game. Like, what are we doing? Like, and that's when I say, you know what? Maybe on some level, Patrick's even better than we thought because
Yeah.
he just turned Juju Smith-Schuster into a 130-yard monster. You know, he I think one Patriots receiver has 130 yards for the season,
Correct.
and so on the one hand, okay, Rashee Rice is not coming back. Hollywood Brown is not coming back. But come playoff time, maybe if Hollywood's there, maybe the offense suddenly looks like a lot better. The other
Sure.
thing, though, is I really do feel like they're they're really being careful about how much Xavier Worthy they're showing.
Hmm.
And
Sure.
I do
Yeah,
wonder
that's
on some
fair.
level, is this a deliberate strategy or not? Because
Yeah.
I mean, if you've seen the clips like I have, there have been
No,
a
he's open.
lot
Yeah,
of
he's open.
Hmm.
plays where it's like he's wide open.
Yeah.
And is Patrick missing him? I don't think Patrick's the kind of quarterback that's going to miss him. Now, maybe he just doesn't get to him in his read. That's possible. But they're looking at the same videos we are, so they're going to know, hey, look at Xavier more. Or are they just like, you know what? There's no reason to put it on tape right now that we can hit you for that 50-yard bomb until the game actually matters. They've done
Don't
it.
you
I
think
mean,
Don't you think the
they have
Chiefs
thrown them,
have
but
a perspective of a bigger picture than these other 31 teams in the NFL when they approach these game plans and these like I just feel like if I were in that game plan room and whatever, that some part of you has to be thinking long term and has to be thinking playoff matchups and has to be thinking when it actually matters, it's not week 5. It's never, I mean, that's just not the way this team operates. And I think a lot of people tend to kind of look past the idea that the Chiefs might not put 100% of everything out there every single regular season week because most NFL teams need to put 100% out there just to come up with a win because that's the competitive nature of the league. But like I do think that this team the idea of them like playing with their food is more about strategy. It's more about it's not just they're lazy or they don't care
right.
about regular season. It's like the long game for Andy Reid is a much more complicated and strategic long game than I think a lot of these other teams. Just my
100%.
gut feeling.
100%. And I mean, we've seen this. I'm trying to see if I can find the stat. You guys might have it, but I believe Patrick's average depth of target like has declined pretty much
Every year.
every year of his career. But
Yeah.
He
like,
has.
it is he like has like the lowest A dot of any quarterback in football right now?
I not
Yes.
only in the league this year, but it's like I
The
don't
last
have the
five
exact
years,
number,
right?
but it's like yeah, I think the A dot
I
data
just saw
goes
this. It was
back
like
to
19 or
like
20.
it goes back several years, and it's like one
Hmm.
of the lowest ever
They've
in the
turned
Yeah.
history
Patrick
of football.
Mahomes into Captain Checkdown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right,
yeah.
they've turned like Alex
Look
Smith
how they
was
massacred my
never,
boy.
but it's like that isn't an accident.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
That
and it's
isn't.
working.
It's not malfeasance. It's not sabotage. They're 5-0,
Right.
and while using him like this, he did not lose the ability to throw deep. I mean, that's why you know even they couldn't help themselves. Even if they are hiding Xavier Worthy for later, they couldn't help but like throw him. That 54-yard touchdown, which by the way I believe was the farthest Patrick Mahomes had thrown a ball in the air in his career.
Mhm.
It
Correct.
was
In
like
the regular
62.
season game, he hit the Tyreek Hill Atlanta 69-yard
Oh, I don't.
touchdown.
Yeah, we're not counting
But
preseason.
yes.
Like,
But
but the
yes.
point is, but you know what? I mean, there was something. It was almost like a pitcher who, used to throw 100 in his youth and has been just kind of sitting 95 to 97. One time
Reaches
he
back.
throws 101, and it's just like
Yeah.
It's like
I
late
just need to
career
know it's
Zach
there.
Greinke, Randy. That's what it is.
Well,
Like
if Zach
maybe not
Greinke's
late,
no, I
but
was gonna say if
like
Zach Greinke came in and then suddenly in a key situation threw
Uh-huh.
99 on the black
Blew it
I,
right by
it's
somebody.
sort
Yeah.
one
of like
time,
maybe mid-career, like Cy Greinke, early
yes,
career Greinke, he's throwing low 90s. He goes to the bullpen, and then when he comes back and he's winning the Cy Young, he could hit
yeah,
it.
yeah.
He
No,
could
Yeah.
dial it
that would
up.
be a better comp. The point is, he only had to do it once, just for me to know he is still physically capable of throwing a
Yeah,
ball 62
sure.
yards,
Totally.
into the breadbasket.
Totally.
To a receiver who, even getting tackled on the play was able to make the catch. I mean, like I said, the thing that makes me most excited about the offense long term, Rashee Rice should be 100% next year, right? Like it sucks that this injury is, still going to keep him out for the whole year, but like it's not,
Yeah, he'll probably be
the
suspended.
odds of him coming back even somewhat
Sure.
diminished. It seems to be low. Hollywood Brown, maybe they'll bring him back, maybe they'll find somebody else. But the point is, long term, Rashee will be good, and Xavier Worthy, it's early statistically, like he's no better than Keon Coleman, or he's not doesn't have the yards of Brian Thomas. I mean, it's very early, but like the returns on the
Hmm.
wide receiver class right now
Hmm.
are damn impressive.
Yeah.
The first 10 receivers, first 9 receivers taken. Ricky Pearsall has been injured and has not played for the Niners yet. But of
He got
the
shot.
other,
Not his fault.
yeah, that's true. Hey, good point. The other 8, and then we'll throw in Brock Bowers as the other skill guy taken in that.
Hmm.
So those 9, the 12 catches Xavier Worthy has is actually tied for last
Hmm.
He only Xavier Legette has fewer receiving yards, but it's like, is anybody looking at Xavier Worthy and be like, oh, that was a bad pick? Of course not. Like,
No.
there's so much tantalizing there, not just in terms of his speed, but like his route running and his understanding of the nuances. This is what people who I trust were saying about the pick after the pick, is that, like, the 4-2-1 40 time obscures the fact that he actually understands the nuances of receiving really, really well. And yeah, he's slight, doesn't look like a big guy, but he never missed a game at Tech. Like, he's always been durable. He seems to be durable. I'm very excited about his long-term potential, and the fact that we haven't seen it yet. The Chiefs in 2024 are the rare team where you can legitimately say we haven't seen it because they don't want us to see it. Even if it hurts them a little bit in the regular season, of course it
Uh-huh.
hasn't. But the point is, like, I'm very, very excited to see what he can do come January if he stays. Like, the one injury we really cannot afford, I think, at this point is one to Xavier Worthy. Because
Can you
I mean,
imagine? Oh my God.
well, look, they won with MVS being wide receiver 2 last year, but like Juju
Sure.
being number 1 and Justin Watson or MVS in a
Well, and
receiver
Rany
role
Juju
as number
popped up
2.
with a hammy injury this
Yeah,
week. Like, who knows if he's going to last the whole season? He's
right.
older and he's had
Yeah.
some injury history. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
So it's, but my point is, I think the skill set is still there for Patrick. The skill set is there, I think, in waiting for Xavier Worthy. So, um, and then of course with the defense, it might not matter, right? So, like, they're not going to go undefeated, even though they're 5-0. I don't really think if the next time I come on in 6 weeks, they're still undefeated, then we'll start talking about 7
Hell
people.
yeah.
But
You know
right
we will.
now, yeah. Well, I mean, and you look at the schedule. I mean, honestly, this
They
week's
played a lot of their hardest games already.
I was gonna say, this week's game, like,
This one in
if
Houston.
they're going to lose, this might be the game. Like, if they lose
This and the
in San Francisco,
Texans are really the
and the
yeah,
Yeah.
at Bills in week 11, and
Sure.
then
Oh yeah, the Bills look
home to the
yeah,
unbelievable.
Texans.
sure.
But to me, the 49ers, the Bills, the Texans, those
That's
are probably
it.
the 3 hardest games on the
Yeah.
schedule. The rest of it's in division. They host the Buccaneers, which, okay, but still, it's,
Sure. Winnable. Very
Baker
winnable.
Mayfield. I mean, Baker Mayfield beat him in college. Sure, they both threw for like 600 yards. I'm not sure
Hmm.
how meaningful that is. And then, more games against the NFC South, like, at the Panthers. Okay, so I mean, I'm not ruling it out now that I've said it, like, oh, I'm not thinking about it. But if they get past the 49ers, I think you have to at
Yeah.
least start having that in the back of your head. But the point is, like, they're going to, are they going to go at least 12-5 and probably 13-4 and win the division again? Yeah, probably. Because if at any point things look dicey, that's when they'll, take the arm that they've been holding behind their back out, and
Punch people to death with it.
start launching bombs and to Xavier Worthy, and let Patrick just go into Terminator mode. But there's just no reason for them to show everything right now.
Rany, I want to ask you what I assume is going to be a purely hypothetical question, because there have been conflicting reports about whether the Chiefs might be in the market for an upgrade at wide receiver, whether they might be interested in trading for somebody. We talked about this in the news. Nate Taylor said that they were interested in a wide receiver. They're trying to trade for somebody that's, a little bit younger, under 30. We obviously just saw Devontae Adams go to the Jets, Amari Cooper to the Bills. Both AFC teams traded to other AFC teams. Um, on the one hand, I mean, if they don't make a move, you said it. We just talked about it. It's not at all hard to conceive that the Chiefs could easily navigate their way through the regular season and maybe even into the playoffs, especially if they think Hollywood is going to be back, without adding anybody or adding Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which I think we can all agree is inevitable because it's just what the Chiefs seem to do. On the other hand, does the fact that the Chiefs are playing for an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl championship, does that override in some sense the traditional conservatism and caution that this front office has in adding players? Does
Yes,
it?
yes.
Yes.
You don't need
Okay.
to go on. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. I mean, look,
Okay.
to me, as much as as disappointed as I am about the Royals losing, like, in the playoffs, if 2 weeks ago if you'd asked me, would I rather see the Royals win the World Series or the Chiefs win the Super Bowl?
Sure.
Once the Royals
Yeah.
qualified for the postseason, that to me was the goal, because at that point, if you'd asked me that, I would have been clearly like, I want the Chiefs to win, because if the Royals don't win They still had a great year. They still had a historic year. And more to the point, they could come back next year and win the World Series, and
Sure.
it would be just as meaningful.
Yeah.
But if the Chiefs don't win this year, they may never get a chance at another three-peat. They might because they hit Patrick
They
Mahomes,
might.
but they might not. And very few teams ever get into that position. They have a chance to do something no one has ever done. I do think like, and you don't have to be irresponsible here. I mean, they didn't, you know, they didn't offer a first round pick to get Amari Cooper or whatever it is. But like, yes, they should trade. We've seen what the market can bear. Third round picks for Amari Cooper, third round pick for
Devontae Adams.
Devontae
Yep.
Adams, who obviously they weren't going to get because it was in division.
And he didn't want to come to the Chiefs, apparently. I
And
don't
they
know
have
if
an
you saw
extra.
his cryptic interview today with Kay
Oh,
Adams, but yeah.
He said they were not on the list.
And he said he didn't want to say anything crazy, but negative, not on the list, not interested. From his standpoint, is what was implied.
Was he the receiver who said that he didn't want to he didn't want to be the team, he wanted to beat the team, like he didn't, or there was a
Probably,
receiver
yeah.
who
I
didn't.
think he said that when he got traded to the Raiders. I think
Maybe
is
that's
Right.
what it was.
said. Yeah,
Okay,
I think
right.
that's what I think that's
Well,
right.
enjoy your time with the Jets, I guess.
Yeah,
So,
right. Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure they're going to turn things around any day now.
Everyone else sure has
Any year
enjoyed
now,
it.
any decade now. Those Jets are going to turn things around.
But yes, I mean the point is like if that's what the market rate for those guys is. I mean, how much? What's Deontay Johnson going to cost?
Sure, right.
A third rounder at
He
most,
doesn't
probably
even play in
not.
the AFC. Why would they care about trading him to us? Come on,
And they're
the
terrible.
Panthers.
Right. No,
Yeah.
no. I think I'm just saying like, what's the cost for Deontay Johnson? A fourth
Can't be
round
that
pick,
much.
maybe.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, he's a little younger, but not as good.
Is he
not as proven?
I mean, they
is
got
this
him
the
for
last
like
year of his contract?
They
Or
got
is
him for
he
like a sixth round pick because the Steelers just wanted to get rid of him. So I mean, like, it can't be that high. It can't be that high.
He signed a 2-year deal with the Steelers before they traded him. So yeah, or he's 2024 is his last year.
okay? Yeah. So I mean, the
I
point is,
mean, he can't cost very much at all.
or Darius Slayton. Like I'm just thinking,
Sure.
Yeah.
guys, and that
Yeah.
like to trade a fourth or fifth round pick, and keep in mind you have an extra third round pick, a high third round pick because the Titans are playing Will Levis, at quarterback. So like the Chiefs
Love
can
them.
trade a
And L'Jarius Sneed has not been very good for them. If you
he looks cooked.
So,
What the heck?
really.
I don't know.
Well, that's
He got away from the magic pixie dust. The Dave Merritt magic.
he
Pixie
got
dust.
whatever 50 million guarantee. Where he got the money.
Good for him.
Good for him. Good for the
Yeah.
Chiefs. If what that, I mean, not that I want to be bad,
We'll probably
but
bring him back in 2 years, and they'll be
quarterback.
Yeah.
But that's what it is. If that tells me that the secret to his success was not that the Chiefs drafted a great cornerback in the fourth round. It's that they took an ordinary guy and turned him into a great cornerback. That's a skill I'd much rather have the franchise have. We're seeing it. And by the way, Jalen Watson looking like really good as his replacement. Might be playing better this year than L'Jarius Sneed. But the point is, like, they can trade a fourth or a fifth round pick for a receiver, still have excess draft capital for next year. But the clarity of knowing you're not getting Rashee Rice back this year, like Hollywood, the problem is if you assume all season, he's going to be back for January and then he's not. That's a problem, right? But so I think you have to assume neither one is coming back, and you need as Patrick showed last year. He just needs a functional play from the receivers in January. He didn't have it all last year, but he got it in January. Specifically, MVS, stopped dropping everything and was able to make a couple key catches when he needed them, and that was sufficient. And then and Travis went into hero mode for a month as well. That's the thing that you worry about this year. They're obviously trying to manage his workload, but he's a year older, and we can't be certain Travis will be that good this postseason. So I think that they need the help of another receiver, and I think they will do that. And I think it'll make a difference.
We'll get you out of here with this, Rany. We've kind of danced around this entire conversation, and so we have to end here. It's not something that I'm super comfortable talking about, but just got to put it out here. The Chiefs have basically become the Patriots, and I'm just going to run through this. They're losing players in free agency. They're trading guys away. They're losing guys to injuries. Everybody's convinced that the refs are in our pocket and that we're paying them under the table and that the league is rigging games in our favor. If Taylor Swift appears on screen for more than 3 seconds, social media loses its mind even more than it usually does. And we've talked about it. Patrick Mahomes is chugging along with the lowest ADOT like in league history, throwing to his old washed up Hall of Fame tight end and a guy that the New England Patriots cut 6 weeks ago, which by the way, I, I mean, the New England Patriots basically invented signing washed up players that other teams cut and turning them into, serviceable Pro Bowl players. And at the end of the day, I mean, this is the part that I just have to say out loud. We've been dancing around it this whole time, this whole conversation, but like this is sort of like Patrick Mahomes' final transformation into Tom Brady, isn't it? Like the guy's just doing whatever it takes to win. He's not throwing the ball deep. He's taking the safe play, the check down. He's throwing, he's doing whatever it takes to win the game, and he's winning like all the time. And it's boring, just like it was boring to watch Tom Brady win all these games. If you look at Tom Brady's career highlight reel, it's like Adam Vinatieri kicking a bunch of field goals.
Yeah.
And then him like
The
sitting in the
tuck rule.
pocket, throwing to a wide open wide receiver. It's not interesting, right? It's not 2018 Patrick Mahomes highlights. The guy just won games. So, like, the question that I have for you is number one, does it get any more Patriots than this 2024 version of the Kansas City Chiefs? I didn't even throw in the fact that we're like propelled by, an all-time great defensive mind, tweaking things there behind the curtain. Does it get any more Patriots than this? And do you love that or hate it? I mean, winning is the only thing. It doesn't you're maybe not going to get that much pleasure out of how we win the games, but at the end of the day, they're winning games, they're winning regular season games, they're winning Super Bowls, they're probably going to win another Super Bowl this year. It's weird, right? But like, do you love it? Do you hate it? Are we the Patriots? Has there ever been a more Patriots team than this version of the Chiefs?
Well, a couple comments I have to make there. First off, I don't think it's fair to say that Tom Brady, all of his highlights involved, Adam Vinatieri kicking field goals. There were also times where he kept completing passes to Julian Edelman on 3rd and 10 in the AFC Championship game against the Kansas City Chiefs because Bob Sutton ran the most predictable
Sure,
defense
Bob Sutton,
in
yeah.
NFL
Yeah.
history. So predictable that Tony
Dicing
freaking
them
Romo
up.
could call them out in real time
Yeah.
on the broadcast.
Yeah.
So there's that.
There's that.
But the other thing is, I don't think it's fair to say that Patrick Mahomes has turned into Tom Brady yet, because there are a few things Tom Brady did that Patrick Mahomes did not. Patrick Mahomes has not been implicated in a scandal involving taping the other team's practices.
Correct.
Yet.
Before a playoff game
That we know of. Yeah.
He has not been accused of deflating footballs yet. So he has a ways to go to match Tom Brady's complete resume. We have to, we have to be honest about that. But realistically, like that is, it could be a tiebreaker one day when we're talking about the legacies of the
Sure,
two competing
yeah,
goats.
right.
Two goats, one cheated, one didn't. Who do you got?
Well, there you go. That is something we have to keep that in mind, because what your point that Patrick Mahomes has evolved into a player for whom the stats take a backseat to winning is well taken. But it's funny because his statistical arc has gone in reverse
Brady,
to Brady, where Brady
Yeah.
started as the game manager and then age 30 put in the still possibly the greatest statistical season by a quarterback in NFL history. It's either him or Peyton Manning's second year with the Broncos, whatever the year.
55 tutties.
Yeah. Whereas Patrick started with the greatest first-year performance by a quarterback in NFL history. I guess him or Kurt Warner, I guess you could put up there. But his sort of, his statistics have sort of slowly declined, but the winning has persisted. And if anything, intensified. And obviously he's 28 or, just turned 29. So like he has plenty of chapters still left to write in that story. But yeah, I mean, I think that, and that's sort of what, to me, that's the argument for him as the better quarterback, is that he can do everything Tom Brady did, but he's also can do things that Tom Brady couldn't. Like, for instance, run. I guess he's he runs more in a typical season than Brady ever had in his best season. So there are elements there, but in terms of the team turning into the Patriots, I mean, yeah, it's sort of inevitable. And do I like it or hate it? I just accept it. I mean, I don't think there's
Yeah.
any way to be as good as the Patriots were without being the Patriots on a national level.
Yeah.
Obviously, the added twist here of Taylor Swift coming into the Chiefs' orbit, that was unexpected.
Yeah.
It's like, again, once again, it's like we see your Giselle Bundchen. We're going to raise you with the most popular artist and possibly the most famous female, on the planet. So that one maybe we couldn't have predicted, but everything else, the fact that people think that we have the refs in our pocket, the fact that people are absolutely sick of us and yet they can't take their eyes off of us.
Mhm.
The fact that like I don't even know why I'm paying for Sunday NFL Sunday ticket anymore because I would get it so that I wouldn't miss a Chiefs game, and now I don't ever have to leave network television to watch the Chiefs game because like 70% of their games are in prime time and the other 30% are like this week's game where it's like
Yeah.
it's
Island game.
the
It's the
entire
only.
national market.
Yeah. Yeah, that was cool. Fox is showing just this game across the entire country, and it's the only 325 kick at all.
I mean
So
Oh,
there's going to
that's
be a
that's
pretty
half an
great. I didn't
absurd.
know
hour
that.
where
Yeah.
Chiefs are the only game on TV. Yeah.
Yeah, I
With
mean
Tom
it's
Brady
absolutely
calling the
absurd.
game.
With
So,
Tom Brady calling the game, just like we all predicted.
Right. Well, this is, but mind you, part owner of the Oakland of the Las Vegas Raiders, Tom Brady. Like he's leaning into this the sort of the anti-Mahomes just a little
Yeah.
bit. Like of all the teams you're going to buy into, the Raiders, really? Okay. All
Right.
right, Tom. All right.
Yeah.
you want to talk about career legacy defining tiebreakers, Ranny. When Mahomes never drops a game to Tom Brady owned Las Vegas Raiders,
I was going to say
I feel like we
Tom
have to count that against him. I mean,
Tom
if he's
Brady is
the
a
owner,
Tom Brady's a partial owner of the Raiders. Patrick Mahomes is the full
Full
owner
on.
of the team.
That's great.
So yes, that
Well,
we're adding to the competition. I mean, so to get to your point though, yes, we are the Patriots now. It's just we flat out are. And whether it's not that I love it or hate it, it's that I acknowledge this as the price of greatness, and it's a price I'm more than happy to pay, and I'm hoping that we'll be paying it for another 15 years.
it's the best. Well, once again, thank you as always for the time. Love talking about these guys. And if that undefeated season approaches, we'll probably check in with you closer than the playoffs, just, because that's a fun conversation. But if not, then, the playoffs are only 3 months away. So we will, I'm sure we'll be talking about them sooner here rather than later.
I look forward to it.